believe we're live again.
So I didn't talk to you at all yesterday. What's new with you?
No, nothing too crazy new yesterday. Had some cool stuff out in the field that we had to, take some shoots of. So was working, but out of office yesterday, which is always nice, working remote. It's always nice getting out there, doing stuff out there in the world and instead of just, working from home. So that was cool. Yeah. Just, editing some more and more videos. We got an opportunity where I think a current client of ours, we're going to go out to a trade show for them next week, and kind of do some filming there, interview some of their clients and things like that. So that's something new and grooving. But yeah, other than that, kind of same old. We talked last week, making the move into Denver after October. So kind of just planning all the logistics, starting to pack and all that good stuff. Other than that, yeah, just business as usual. How about yourself?
Yes, man. There we go. I don't know. It wasn't a good connection. Yeah, camping over the weekend. That was fine. Yesterday was kind of a catch-up day and doing a couple other things. I don't know if you caught it on, probably not yesterday's, but yesterday's show was, we were talking about a new bill that was proposed that could have an impact on a ton of businesses, including ours, and anybody who works with an offshore person or service. So I think you had mentioned to me the other day that you work with somebody, right? One of your team is, I think, in the Philippines, right?
Yep, correct. Yes, sir.
And so did you see this bill?
I did not. I have not been too tuned in to business news, I guess.
Bernie, Ohio senator So Bernie Moreno out of Ohio tried to kind of push through without sponsorship a bill on the 17th saying that all services that are rendered overseas that support, something in the U.S., so anybody who outsources any kind of job or any kind of work to someone overseas would have to start paying a 25% tax on everything they send over, as well as nothing that is spent could be written off as business expense and taxes. So it was put forward. It was knocked down. I didn't have any real support from either side. It was just something he on his own kind of put forward in his own kind of attempt to say, hey, we've had enough of corporate America, exporting jobs and blah, 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 right? Just trying to big talk it, talking about how if we do that, it's slave labor and all that good stuff. So I covered it pretty extensively in yesterday's show and kind of gave my perspective as someone who obviously uses a lot of it in his business. So, but yeah, I thought that was a good topic. Turns out, like I said, it's got no real support right now. It was blocked. Doesn't look like there's any momentum or any plan to bring it back up anytime soon. If it would have passed per se, then it would have started like beginning of 6. But okay. I don't think it has any teeth right now. Of course it could if people, maybe he gets some leader in one party and another leader in a party behind it and they push it forward maybe, but doesn't look like it has a whole lot of legs right now, which I think that's good news, for our companies in general. But I think there's other ways. I don't like it. I think we talked about this a long time ago with TikTok, right? I don't like it when government gets involved in saying too often what you can and can't do. What I like is the markets to dictate what works and what doesn't work, as long as, people's lives aren't physically at stake. You know what I mean? Like at the end of a gun kind of a thing.
Right.
So, for the government to come in and say, hey, I don't care if the market has gotten to a place where the services that you provide, you can't provide at a competitive rate if you don't get things done outside of the U.S.
Right.
Certain things, I think, of just in the last 20 years, if an economy and a culture is able to give a high degree of quality of service at a lower rate, you should be free to purchase that service. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And if because we come across plenty of people in our work. We don't outsource hardly any of our IT, very little of it during off hours when we'd have to pay a lot of money to any of our techs to be up at night. We have, I think, 2 members on our IT team that are, on our normal daytime IT staff. But from, revenue cycle management Scribe, almost everybody's over there. Most of our team is in India. It's just, even if we did, there's plenty of companies that say, well, we don't want to work with you because it's offshored, can only because of our organization bylaws at our hospital, we can only work in the continental United States. So be it. They're going to find somebody that does that and they're going to pay double or triple for the service, right? So that still exists, just not to as much to a higher degree.
Yep, definitely. Interesting stuff. Yeah, I wasn't too in tune for that, but yeah, that is interesting. And so I guess we'll see if it continues to get legs or gets shut down, because there's probably a lot of things they got to do to actually implement it, I would assume.
Right. Yeah. It'd be, there's no one's up in a stink about it, because I don't think anybody took it seriously. There's billions of, it's like a $225 billion industry in India.
Yeah.
Outsourcing from the U.S. So That's not from little companies like you and me. That's from the big guys outsourcing hundreds of their folks.
Yep.
I think it would take a lot to make that happen.
Yeah, you got to think like the IBMs and those big tech companies. I know whenever I, would call them
HP, Microsoft,
Adobe. Whenever I'd call them, really obviously super helpful and everything, but you can tell like they're foreign, at least just from the accent. And so, yeah, a lot of these big guys are utilizing that. So it'll be interesting to see, to your point, with not only, people might think outsourced stuff, they might think smaller, younger companies, but then you got to realize these big guys are doing it a lot, like you said.
Yeah. And one of the things I said is like, I think people should be more worried about AI taking those support role type of jobs because, AI can do some pretty complicated stuff now, even if it's just, I was just looking at somebody soliciting me about use our company to answer your calls after hours so you never miss a call. If you're doing digital marketing 24/7, but you're only answering the phone to 5:00, what are you missing? Right.
Yep.
So, okay. So, 12 cents a minute, I could pay for AI to at least answer the phone, get their information, and book an appointment into my calendar.
Yeah, literally.
Right?
Yep.
And if I'm only paying for the time when someone's on the phone, when that person's on the phone doing that, they're probably going to do that in less than a minute or two. Or I could pay somebody in the US or India or the Philippines or Pakistan or wherever to sit on the phone all night long and have to pay them per hour, right? So I think so what's the government going to do? I mean, the government's investing billions of dollars building these server farms for AI. They're just going to say AI can't do it now?
Yeah, right.
I don't think so. So anyway,
interesting to see.
Piggybacking off of that a little bit is a story that's picking up a little bit of steam. And it's funny, both of these stories came out of Manny the last 2 days because Manny's Indian, but he spends a lot of time over here. He's on a work visa right now, and he's working on getting his H1 visa, I think, or L1 visa or something. But this story has to do with the H1B visa program. And this is the visa where if somebody gets it, they can stay for up to 6 months. They can bring their family if they're under 21, that kind of thing, wife and kids under 21. Apparently the new fee that's just started is $100,000 to get that visa, which is a lot of money. It's not what it was. I mean, it's not cheap to get it in the first place. I mean, just to do stuff for Manny over the years, we've had to hire lawyers and, $15,000 here, $10,000 here, 15, just to like pay people to do the paperwork. And it's not easy. And apparently that, that's straining relationships between, let's say, companies in the US or India that bring people over on visas, having to pay $100,000 a pop. And apparently you only have to do it once and you get that visa and you can renew it. You don't have to pay $100,000 every time you renew it.
Okay. That's good at least there. Cause that'd be wild every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely, a small company like us, we've considered, and we always consider, we have some really awesome team members in India. And, when we heard about what I reported on yesterday, we were like, man, we got to get so-and-so and so-and-so over here stat, because we don't want to have to lose them, because they're awesome. And it's not, that, in that case, it's not just about getting that temporary visa. It's about getting citizenship. That's even harder, right? But small to mid-size, businesses, say you got an awesome person that's been working with you for 10 years and they're overseas, and something like a law like says you got to pay $100,000 to get them, man, that could just totally throw that into a wrench into that. You might lose that professional relationship.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So I remember you were talking about maybe bringing your guy over and having him visit for a while and stuff, right?
Yeah. That was potential opportunity. So I don't know how that would actually work from a legality standpoint to what we were talking about. But yeah, I always thought that'd be cool, kind of getting him over here and kind of showing him, maybe doing some projects in person. I just always think it's cool when you work with someone for, over 2-3 years. And especially in today's day and age, it's crazy to think, even some of my clients, even like if you and I have been working together for a few years now, if you didn't come that one time in Charlotte, we probably would have never met in person. And so obviously you get to know someone while I'm working with them, so you know a lot about them, but it's still just kind of funny to me, thinking working with people for 2-3 years and still of not meeting them in person. And so especially with people, we work on a weekly or monthly basis, I just always thought it'd be cool, like, hey, meet in person, break bread. I think it's an important part of business. Yeah, I do too. And it's tricky because the first couple of years that we were building things over here, Manny was on the type of visa where you could come and you could stay for a while, but you're not allowed to work. Right. It's just like a vacation visa. So he could be here, but he couldn't really be active in the company. Right. Which was
it's a hard line to skate for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you could, like, let's say he could have his passport and get his visa and visit, and you guys could meet and have dinner and have lunch. You could probably talk business, but let's say going out and doing a shoot or working on, a project together. I mean, I'm not trying to advise anybody to do anything that's not legal, but I mean, if someone jumps on their computer and does a little bit of work and they just so happen to be sitting here, it's the same thing they would have been doing on the other side of the world anyway. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's a weird gray area for sure.
It is. Yeah. Technology puts things in a funky place.
It does. It does. Yep.
But yeah, this H-1B visa thing, $100,000 if you want your visa. But there is a limit though. It's not like they're just saying wide open as many as we can take for $100K each. It's the limit on the number of them. I looked it up right now is, so the U.S. gives out 60,000 H-1B visas a year, and then another 25,000 to like higher level degree graduates, like certain masters and doctorate level degrees programs. They'll award up to 25,000 of those a year too. And if you don't get in, you don't get in.
Yeah. Yep.
So you can just imagine how many people annually are trying to get here. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of different people wanting to come here for a lot of different reasons, whether it's work, vacation, or just a whole better life. Yeah, there's a lot of people that want to do it, and so it'll be interesting to see kind of the reaction from this.
It's one of those things, like sometimes if you let, the state of all affairs, or if you just watch the news and it's all bad news, right? If you just sometimes it's easy to get down on our country. Oh, our country is so divided. It sucks. And it's one of the worst countries in the world and stuff like that. But that's not true. It's really not true. I mean, what other country in the world, has people lining up to live here, to work here, to visit here, to the tune of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people at a time, right, to where we got to say, nope, that's all we can afford to do, even if we're making a pop on it. And there's that whole citizenship thing. Was it like the gold card for like $1 million or something?
Yep, I think so. Yeah, I think that's a thing too. Yeah.
I mean, if I was super wealthy in another country, and I was either going to spend $1 million on a house or a car or something, or like full gold level citizenship into the U.S., I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, 100%.
Do that in a heartbeat.
Yep.
It's crazy stuff.
Cray.
Anyway, moving on. Other topic I wanted to talk about today, I'm glad you joined, is kind of more in the line of what we're doing every day, in a small business, service-related business like you have or like me. I don't know a whole lot about how you kind of operate things, but pretty much everything we do, I would say 95% of our clientele is in some kind of contract or service agreement with us, right? And, when I got started in IT sales almost 15 years ago, I didn't know anything about this stuff, right? I knew about agreements from when I bought my house or when I buy a car. There's a bunch of stuff that you don't read, or even nowadays when you play a video game, you pop in a new game, load it up. Before you can even play it, there's pages of, like, if you sat there and read it, honestly, we wouldn't understand it unless we had a lawyer with us, but you could read this stuff for 30 minutes or more to get to the bottom and hit okay. I agree. But what do? We just agree. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
We have no idea what we just gave away. But anyway, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because what I've been, over the last couple months, I've had a lot of different meetings with folks, but I've had a lot of meetings where potential clients are in service agreements with competitors and they're just unhappy. Not to the point of like throw your hands up and, go on Yelp and complain, unhappy, like, crazy person. But like you sit down with them and at first they're like, things are pretty good. We get this done and this done and this done. And then I'm like, I'll just kind of come right out and say it. I've said, why are we meeting? Most people meet with me because they have an issue. It sounds like what you just told me, everything's great. It sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. Well, not necessarily. And then it comes out. And then, you dig a little deeper and you find out, what the real problems are. And a lot of that is either protected or covered in like the expectations that are delivered in a long-term agreement, right? Mm-hmm. Services typically come along with anything that typically has a retainer type atmosphere where you're paying so much per month, per year, per day, per week for an expectation of services, right? In that agreement or master service agreement is typically where it's spelled out. This is what company is going to provide. This is what the other company is to expect. and usually there's things like performance clauses or notice periods or contract termination clauses or, renewals, all these kind of things that are in agreements, right? And they're all written in kind of a secondary language, legal speak, that is, I think, for the layman like us, is built to, I want to understand what's going on for the first couple lines, and by the time you finish a paragraph, you're like, what did I just read?
Right.
But the reason I bring it up is because I'm coming in contact with a lot of folks that don't seem to be familiar with what's in their agreement, or they don't even know where the agreement is, which I can understand that. I've got relationships with third-party vendors, and I haven't looked at the agreement in a year, and I'm looking at the performance of this vendor, and it's not up to snuff. And, I need to go back and look to see if there's a way out, because it's just not working out, right?
Right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about agreements, a little bit about services that are kind of being rendered or supposed to be rendered, and where in agreements does it say that, and how do I pay attention to that, and do I have any recourse? Am I looking at signing an agreement that doesn't say anything about those things? And then efficiency of services that are built in a way to support the agreement, maybe support the company that's rendering services, but not built in a way to be advantageous for the client, right?
Right.
So, and what I mean by that is, because I'm running into a company in particular, and I'm not going to throw them under the bus or anything, but I'm running into a company in particular that I'm learning more and more about them. They're probably our biggest competitor in the local space, and they seem to be really good at getting a contract signed that is pretty locked up tight, doesn't leave a whole lot of options for people to judge ongoing performance and then have a way out due to poor performance. And then also lock things up in a way to where all the services that are rendered are a quality in let's say a response metric, but in a metric of helping the client achieve their business, their necessary business outcomes using technology, is not how things are set up. It's set up more to make things really efficient for the service provider, and things very inefficient, and what's the word I'm looking for? Very static for the company, right? They're working for. So if you haven't guessed, this is kind of an IT thing, right? Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, it's always been that, hey, if I'm a small business and I have a team of people that take care of IT for me, whether I can afford to pay the team in-house or have to outsource, one of the expectations that I'm going to want, and I find that most companies want, is they want somebody that they can sit down and talk to, whether that's their help desk person trying to solve their email issue, mm-hmm. or a higher technician or CTO in that company to sit down and strategize with, right? They want somebody that's going to know the most recent trends, that's going to know why things can affect their business negatively and how to keep them safe and things like that. Someone that could sit down and say, listen to the client, this is what they're struggling with, and then come up with solutions, and then implement those solutions. Sometimes those solutions end up costing more money. Sometimes they're covered in the agreement, right? They're kind of inherent in what we're here to do. And I'm just finding lately that, not just with IT, but other things as I pay more attention, it's a really good business model from this competitor standpoint, and where it keeps their prices low. I think it keeps their efficiency high, but I think it's wearing on their clients in a way where, as soon as they find the opportunity, they're going to try to get out of that agreement.
Right. Yeah.
So I just, it's one of those things where, our company, and we're not the world leaders in what we do yet or anything like that, but it's always been my philosophy to err on the side of going the extra mile when it comes to the services we provide. And what that can often do, if you're not really organized with that, is it can make life tough for technicians, because technicians don't know when to say no. Because typically what I say is, hey, if they ask for it, just fix it, do it. I don't care.
Yep.
But sometimes that can be terribly inefficient. And all of a sudden, with a client that may only be paying you $500 a month, you knee deep in a 20-hour fix, and you're not going to be profitable for that client for 6 months because of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, I mean, what I'm learning on one end is, okay, how do we balance all this, right? And to say, clearly create expectations and agreements, provide the right services to help your client from a technology standpoint, in this case, achieve their goals, because those goals, the day you sign up, aren't always the same as 3 years down the road. right? Somebody on the staff is going to find out they wish they could do A, B, or C with their computer, and that wasn't a thing 2 years ago. Turns out it can be done, but in order to do it, I'm going to have to allot somebody from our team to take care of it. It might take them 5 hours to do it, right? So am I going to be in a place where I say, no, that's not included in your agreement unless you add it for this much more a month, or unless you pay an extra $150 an hour for the next 5 hours for them to do that? Because I guess that really, it's a line, and it's, you always dance around the possibility of upsetting somebody thinking that this is what they thought they were getting. They just hadn't asked for it yet because they didn't need it. Now they need it. Now you want to charge me for it.
Right.
So
yeah, interesting stuff. Very interesting, and yeah, a lot to it. And that's the part of being a business owner too, is you learn all these things by just kind of getting thrown into the fire, seeing what does and what doesn't work, and that's usually how the game goes. Yeah,
and I think what I've learned is there's a line, but it can be complicated. It's like, did I cross the line? Did I not cross the line? So here's a really good example from today. This is something where we dropped the ball, and I'm like, this was on us. Fix it, apologize, let's move forward. So it's a relatively newer client. He's only been with us maybe a year or so. And I guess he found out today that his website went dark due to him not renewing with, whoever his host is. And he put in a ticket, and then he called and he's hollering at the guys, hey, you guys, I'm paying you guys X amount every month to take care of this stuff, and you're not taking care of it. Well, it's kind of a gray area. So our team was kind of confused that they weren't sure if his website was our responsibility. So that's a gray area because his website is not our responsibility. Like, we don't manage the site. He's not a marketing client of ours, an IT client of ours. So we don't manage the site. We don't keep it up to date. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. But his website is a technical aspect of his business. And whoever his hosting platform is a vendor, is an IT vendor. Part of services with us is we manage the IT vendor relationship, meaning, we need to know whether it's their ISP, whether it's their website, whether it's their Microsoft licensing, whether it's whatever they're paying for, IT related. We need to have a very detailed understanding of who, what, when's it expire, all that kind of stuff. So we can let him know in advance, hey, 90 days from now, your website's going to expire. You might want to re-up that. Here's the 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year plan. You know what I mean? It's real. It's 5 minutes of work for us. But if we're not paying attention, if we didn't put that into our knowledge platform, which we generally do a very good job of, but all it is forgetting to ask one question in the onboarding.
Yeah.
Hey, who's your web hosting platform? Oh, it's GoDaddy. Okay, we're going to need those GoDaddy credentials. We're going to jump in there real quick. We're going to take note of, what everything is, where it is, what's going on, if you have the right security things. If you don't, we're going to advise you, blah, blah, blah. But we didn't do that. So it was pretty unprofessional of this client to call and holler at our technicians. You don't got to do that. That's just not necessary.
Agreed.
Talk to this person before. Hey, you don't need to holler at anybody. We're on your team. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But I can understand his frustration. His website goes down. He doesn't have a retail site. Like, no one's really going there, for any big purpose. But your website platform goes down, your domain goes down, you might not be able to send and receive emails too. So that can be a problem. Anyway, So I told the guys, absolutely, it's on us. This is why. You need to reach back out to him, apologize, and then fix it and move forward. So, but it's kind of a gray area in our agreement. It doesn't specifically say that we're responsible for notifying of his website. And our guys have to read the agreement and understand it. But what it does say is we manage the vendors. And they didn't put it in their head that the website hosting platform is an IT vendor. We need to know who they are. And so I guess the moral of the story is business owners, service people, getting into this kind of stuff. Spend time creating your agreements, understanding your agreements, work with professionals to make sure they're worded right. Make sure you're clear about the services that you're providing so that your client knows where the out of bounds is. And then when it comes to, when you're actually delivering the services, always have efficiency in mind, but not at the expense of going the extra mile and being willing to do that extra thing that might cost you a little bit more on your side to get it done, and not always expecting the extra couple bucks to do that. I guess that's my moral.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. I have to jump here. Actually, it's going on 4:30, so I'm going to jump off. But I just wanted my last note on that would be, just try to, make sure you got yourself backed up, and you can't make someone, to your point, someone else's problem, have them putting that on you. Just make it very specific. In our agreements, we put, hey, this quote is dependent on X, Y, and Z, and we do it very specific as well. And that the way you learn is sometimes you get yourself into some situations that are not ideal, but, instead of beating yourself up, just kind of be grateful for the opportunity to be like, okay, now, I know to put this in, because sometimes there are things that, you and I haven't even come across yet, and we'll still make mistakes on. And that's the part of just being a business owner is taking those things that are happening and just ensuring that, hey, document it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Good thought. Hey, thanks for that, Matt. I know you got to go. Bounce out, get to what you got to do. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks. Always a pleasure. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, guys.
Matt.
See ya.
So yeah, that was a really good point by Matt, saying that, sometimes you do get into situations because your agreements weren't perfect, and you got to take care of your end of the bargain, right? But learn from it, make note, update your agreements to account for it. One of the things we're looking at right now is we've never put in an annualized percentage increase based on, cost of doing business. So one of the things we're looking at putting in our agreements here moving forward is, no lesser than 5, no greater than 10% annualized increase on our agreements to make up for, salary increases of staff that work directly for our clients, as well as, costs of doing business going up. And those two things by no means cover all of that, because a lot of times certain costs go up by 30%, but other costs only go up by 2%. Sometimes it comes out in the wash. But it's one way that we can help take the hit without making life too difficult on our clients, where they've got to blow up a budget to keep working with us. And at the same time, it can help us sustain a level of profitability that makes it to where we can give people raises and, we can reinvest back into the company and make things better for them. So that's kind of how that works. But no, that was a good show. I think we're right on about 30 minutes for today. So that being said, thanks everybody for joining us for episode 66 of the Daily BLP. I was your host, Brian Collins. We will see you guys tomorrow. Everybody take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.